How is it rocking, Dwayne Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dwayne Nation and the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo. Genoa, how you doing today, my brother?
Yo, Dewey Nation, I am doing amazing today, Justin. Hey, it's final season, Justin. I mean, we're gonna crown a new NBA champion in a week or so, and I'm so excited to get down about it. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and as Genoa mentioned, and as you can see here, we're talking NBA today. Obviously, the finals are right underway. We're under a week away from the finals. A couple of days ago, we had the Mavs beating the Celtics, and it's kind of a new era. As you saw, the last five champions have been not the same team. We're gonna have the same story this finals here, and these two teams are just electric offenses, improved defenses on the at least Dallas side. Boston's been a good defense for most of the season, but honestly, I think it's the finals we didn't know we needed because it's just very interesting. Both sides of the ball. We're gonna talk about it, but first, as you can see here on the screen, let's talk about how these teams got to this point. Obviously, Boston, the number one seed in the East, essentially cruised their way to this point, only losing two games. They beat the Heat in round one, the Cavs round two, and the Pacers, and they sweep the Pacers in the conference finals. And the Mavs, they had a tough matchup in the round one. They went against the Clippers, but they were able to win in six. Same with the Thunder, and then in a surprise, in my opinion, because I had the Timberwolves winning the whole thing, they punched the Timberwolves in the mouth and win in five. Could have really won in four. They're up 3-0. But now both teams finals starts Thursday, which I'm like, at first I'm like, dang, they played on the 30th. Why are we waiting a whole week to play? I want it now. But hey, it gives us some time to make this video and kind of preview what we're going to see starting on Thursday. But Genoa, through these matchups, what do you think's been like the biggest takeaway from either team, and what could transpire this next week?
Justin, I have been surprised with the bench of the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, there's these players that have kind of come out of nowhere, and now the unsung hero in Derek Lively is now giving this juice to the Mavericks. I know he missed game four with a head injury, but he came back, provided them with some juice. It's the ability of the bench, Justin. There's been no Tim Hardaway, I don't believe, in this postseason. Past seasons, he was their second go-to guy. After the departure of Jalen Brunson, and guys like that have been showing up for the Dallas Mavericks, playing defense. Gafford hops in once in a while. The way that PJ Washington can score for the Dallas Mavericks, it makes it easier for Kyrie and Luka to just do their thing. Luka and Kyrie have been such amazing passers. So the fact that the bench has been able to just develop the right way and hold stops it's what has been standing out to me, Justin.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I mean, Derek Lively's been the story. Obviously, his mom passed away in April, and then he's just gone on an ultimate tear through the playoffs. What was he, 16 for 16 in this series? Like,
Yeah.
really impressive work. Yeah, obviously, he did miss that one game. It's the game they lost, but then he comes back and just goes ballistic, and they win. And they beat the Timberwolves, who had the best, defense all season statistically. But it didn't look like that. And then for Boston, I think they've always been looked at as, I know it's Tatum and Brown that usually is the ranking of how they play, but Jalen Brown had a phenomenal series, especially early on in the first couple of games. And I mean, it was just never a contest. I mean, those games were fairly close, especially the first one where the Pacers had it, and then I believe their first game at home too. But with the injuries to Halliburton, the Pacers never had enough. But I think it's interesting to say, and I'm not a Boston Celtics hater because they've been the best team all season. But hey, why do they keep playing teams and these players just get injured for the other team, and they've been able to coast of sorts and through it. Jimmy Butler got hurt in that series. Mitchell, Jared Allen, there were some injuries there, and then of course Halliburton in the conference finals. But I don't know. It's not given a phony run because they've been the best team all year, but it leaves me some worry because when you look at the other side, Dallas had to play, the Clips, even though you could say Kawhi was hurt in that series. But they still had Paul George, Harden. You could argue with Russ, and then they played the number one seed in the Thunder, the young team. Were able to beat that, and then the Timberwolves, of course, they kind of laid the smackdown on them. But what would you say to people who are criticizing Boston for not having this glorified playoff run so far?
Well, Justin, since Jason Tatum has been drafted to the Celtics, Boston has been knocking on the door year in and year out. They went to the conference finals last year. They were down 3-0 and tied the series after a miracle layup from Derek White. But then Miami was able to win that game in Game 7. And the year before, too, I mean, they made the finals. And it looked like they were going to win it all until Steph and company took over. And we'll probably get to that in a little bit in our predictions. We'll have to mention that. They've just been knocking on the door, Justin. And how Jaylen Brown is becoming a superstar. He was the reason why they could have won the finals in 2022. It all goes down to Tatum, which we will get into a little bit. But it's just, I would say that Joe Mazzulla has done good as taking over for head coach. I feel like he is a more I love my guy Ime Udoka in Houston, but I think Joe Mazzulla does fit a little bit. He's a little bit more suave with the Celtics, a little bit more nicer than Ime was. And I feel like that kind of gels them up a little bit. They do have Kristaps coming back, so I think Porzingis could be a factor. And you can't forget about Drew Holiday, Justin, who is as good as it gets when it comes to defense at the point guard position. You could argue he's the greatest defensive point guard. I know there's a couple others there in history of the NBA, but you can say he's top 5, Justin, already having an NBA championship in 2021 with the Milwaukee Bucks. So, that's going to be another key factor. Drew Holiday and Kyrie Irving, I mean, that's going to be a matchup to see. So there's many things to take away from it, though, Justin.
Yeah, and I mean, gosh, looking through these playoff runs, I mean, to make it through 3 series anyway is a feat in itself. But now we get the best 2 teams from the conferences. So let's really dive into these 2 teams. Mavericks, Celtics starts in Boston on June 6th. What do you think about the matchup of Drew Holiday and Kyrie Irving? Because Kyrie Irving has been, phenomenal as of late, but he runs into a wall that is Drew Holiday, as you were mentioning. Just what a great defender he has been his entire career. But yeah, who do you think kind of maybe possibly wins that battle, or what do you think there?
It's going to be very back and forth. I do believe in Game 1. I think Kyrie might struggle a little bit. The Boston crowd's going to get to him just a little bit. I do think he kind of comes around, though, Game 2 back in Boston. But Drew Holiday, I feel like, is going to have a pessimistic kind of game here in Game 1. I would say limiting Kyrie Irving to maybe about 21 points. Maybe a little bit about, I would say about 48% shooting. A little bit just not a bad game for Kyrie, but not effective enough for them to take the win here in Game 1. I think you kind of know where I might be going with this. But I do think Kyrie Irving is going to probably get the best of them when they do get to Dallas for Games 3 and 4. I kind of think that home crowd will kind of make Kyrie, ease up a little bit. But it's definitely going to be a back and forth matchup where we'll look at one game and be like, man, Drew Holiday really put the clamps on Kyrie. And then we'll look at another game and be like, wow, Kyrie really, cooked Drew Holiday tonight. And I don't even know if Drew Holiday can play defense like that, again. So it's going to be very back and forth, Justin. But that's the beauty of the finals. And that's what's it's going to make it so exciting.
And you know what I really like to just look at, the entire scope of this series. There's just so many good storylines from it. One at the very top of it, Boston. They have 17 NBA championships, tied with the Los Angeles Lakers. They get one here, and they become the greatest team of all time, winning the most NBA titles. And they haven't won in a good amount of time, over a decade for sure. And the Mavs too. The last time they were here, they won against the Heat. And Jason Kidd, who was the coach of the Mavs, was a player on the Mavs back then. Very interesting how that has turned full circle. And then, of course, I think what most people are talking about, Kyrie Irving's big saga when he was in Boston. I'm coming back. Nah, he goes to Brooklyn. Obviously, that leads down to now him being in Dallas. And then Kristaps as well was a Maverick, got traded to the Wizards, now is a Boston Celtic. And we're finally going to see all of these guys kind of reunite and fight off in a big battle in the finals. But hey, it's interesting. I know I brought up Drew guarding Kyrie. You think there's a chance Luka could be guarded by Drew because of how great he is of a player? Like, who can guard Luka? And I guess in a counter, who can guard Jason Tatum in this game?
Yeah. Well, looking at the Mavericks roster, I'm looking at so far it's already going to have to be PJ Washington. He's going to have to be super active this series, Justin. He's rather going to be guarding Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. It all comes down to the defense of PJ Washington. What can he do? Can the Dallas Mavericks look at what the Warriors were able to do in 2022? Jason Tatum had awful games in Game 5 and Game 6 in the 2022 finals. It was really Jaylen Brown that was a savage, scoring all these points, doing everything he can for this team. And so, to me, I feel like Drew Holiday is probably going to have to just be on Kyrie as much. As far as the matchup for Luka, who's going to guard Luka, it's going to have to be Jaylen Brown. I know that sounds kind of odd, but when you look at the starting five, it's Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Horford, and Derek White. I do think Derek White is going to also get some Luka time, but I don't think Derek White is physical enough, built enough to kind of keep up with Luka's stature. So I think it's going to have to be Jaylen Brown. I think he's the best defensive player besides Drew Holiday in that starting five. I know Horford's been around, but he's going to be back there with Lively or whoever starts at center. So it's going to have to be Jaylen Brown for, Boston to play defense on Luka. And it's going to have to be PJ Washington, Justin, that's going to have to really play some great games because it's going to be Tatum or Brown. And I feel bad for PJ Washington because, it might give him some fatigue there. And that's going to really what's going to determine how the series goes.
I mean, being somebody, tasked to guard one of those two as a young player, which PJ is probably going to be the hardest test of his NBA career. It's hard to kind of, even though, we'll get into the predictions in a little bit, but to bet on Dallas, knowing that that's kind of the block in the road for Boston is a PJ Washington, who we haven't seen be a great defender as of yet. But I'm really interested to see this Al Horford versus maybe Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively matchup because Dallas's front court did pretty well against, Minnesota's, tough defense in this past series. And now it's obviously not the same because, Horford's an older vet, not, defense, that's not his, calling card, I'd say. So they have this kind of new opportunity to become, I don't know, just even more stars in this series. And, they were traded midseason, at least Gafford was in Washington. And now they have a chance with, Kristaps, maybe a little hobbled Kristaps. Hopefully he's fully healthy in this series because he missed out last one. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm really interested to get your take on two things. Let me actually first give me your X factor for the series for both teams. You give your Boston, then I'll give my Boston, then you give your Mavs, and I'll give my Mavs.
Okay, the X factor. I want to say it's going to be Jaylen Brown, but Justin, it ultimately comes down to Jason Tatum. Like I mentioned in the finals in 2022, Jaylen Brown was playing amazing. It was really like he was the one-man team for Boston in those final two games against Golden State. It was really Jason Tatum who, was nicknamed Jason Turnover in that finals. I think one of those games he had like 13 points and like 8 turnovers. It was pretty ridiculous. And that's what it all comes down to. It all comes down to Jason Tatum. He was drafted, 6-7 years ago. He was that young 18-year-old in Boston. In that Lonzo Ball draft. I don't know if you remember, Justin, but that draft was full of hype with the Ball family. And Jason Tatum was that guy that was drafted, not known too much, but known. And now it's his time. He was in the finals 2 years ago. Last year, they almost came back from a 3-0 lead. And now they're in the finals. They had a cakewalk to the finals. They were the best team in the league. And ultimately, the X factor comes down to Jason Tatum. If he can score you 25 to 30 points a game, each game of this series, the Celtics will win easily. And it shows, for example, in this past series, I know Halliburton missed the last two games. But if you look at game one, they were struggling, and Jaylen Brown made a big time shot to send it into overtime. But it was really Jason Tatum that was getting those other buckets that kind of, kept the Celtics in it because, the Pacers were kind of running away with it. So that's kind of what the Celtics need. They need great games from Tatum every single game. It has to be 25 and over. It cannot be 21 to no. It has to be 25 to 30 and over as far as scoring for Jason Tatum. And that is the ultimate factor because I believe that Jaylen Brown is going to do his thing. He's going to play well. He's going to, he's been playing well all playoffs. It all comes down to Jason Tatum.
All right. Yeah, Jason Tatum has kind of been the storied guy, not be able to get it done type of guy this late in the playoffs. But when I looked at X Factor, obviously the best player is the X Factor, you could argue, but I went with Derek White as the X Factor for the Boston Celtics. I mean, the guy who has kind of been just the unsung hero, I'd say, for this team for most of their runs, the last few years as he's been on the team. Um, I was it Tyler Hero who came out and said, "Hey, if Derek White is hitting his shots, nobody's beating this team." I believe it was Tyler Hero,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. Yeah, but he's right on the money with it because hey, Derek White. I mean, now he's coming in at the 2 guard for this team, so he might be tasked with Luka Doncic. I mean, and we've seen it since San Antonio, where I mean,
Yeah.
Derek White, give him the ball and he'll make plays. He's not the best player on the team, but he's kind of that third or fourth piece that can really, if he flips his switch on, it could be really special for that team. And you're right, they're well rested. And so they're moving into this series with some serious. I mean, hopefully they've been practicing. There's no cold streaks because we've seen that happen before for teams across all sports. But I got Derek White as my X factor for this final series. And as we move to Dallas, I'll take Mavs and I'll go with my X factor here. And I feel like it's a name we did mention so far in this episode, but not really thought of by a lot of fans. But I'm going to go with Daniel Gafford for the Mavs, the starting center, Daniel Gafford, traded at the deadline to Dallas from Washington. And I honestly knew of that guy's name in Washington. He had some really big performances with the Wizards. Obviously, they've not been a great team for a little while, but he kind of stood out and had some really big performances for a while because he's a huge guy and he scores near the basket. And now in this series, he's had his tests with Rudy Gobert. Now he gets a little bit of a lighter matchup with Al Horford. And if Kyrie Irving's being shut down by Drew Holiday, obviously Luka can't carry everything for this team. Get it to your guy down in the front court, and Daniel Gafford will put it in the basket. You could argue the same thing for Derek Lively. He's been a great player so far in his career. Had a great last series, but I'll give it to the veteran who's starting for this team. But I got Daniel Gafford. What are your thoughts with Gafford? And then give me your X factor.
Yeah, no, yes, Gafford's gonna have to have a great game. They're gonna have to keep up with Al Horford because Al Horford is a shooter. He can get open from the three. He likes to shoot those wing, three at the edge and the baseline, and he makes them. So definitely Gafford is gonna be a guy that has to stop Horford because Horford is getting older in his year. He's been a great player his whole career. He is hungry for a championship, and Justin, he is gonna provide the spark that the Celtics need in the middle of that series. When it gets tough and around Game 3. Horford's going to be that vocal, veteran leader that's going to tell Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White, like, hey, we got to go. This is our time. So, that's definitely a good one. For mine though, Justin, I'm going to keep it basic, and
Okay.
it comes down to the biggest storyline of this series, and the X factor is Kyrie Irving. Okay, when we saw Kyrie Irving win his first championship, him and LeBron were going back and forth. They had a great Game 5 in Oracle. And that's what's going to have to be, replicated this series. If Luka's going to have to be LeBron, which I know he will, but Kyrie's going to have to step up too. And this is the storyline of the series. Boston, their fans, they have no mercy. They are as foul as it gets. They are as vulgar as it gets, ruckus as it gets. And Kyrie Irving is going to needs to be the one that's going to shut him down. He's going to needs to be making those big time buckets in the third quarter, mid fourth quarter. And I know he can. Kyrie Irving is possibly the best ball handler of all time, one of the most sensational players we have ever seen in our generation, Justin. So he's the X factor for sure. If he can play the way he played in Game 5 in Minnesota consistently through the series, it's going to be very tough, and it has to start Game 1. You have to punch Boston in the mouth. Indiana, if they would have won Game 1, this would have been a different series, regardless if Tyrese played or not, if Halliburton was not, because Indiana does have some pretty good players around Tyrese. But here in this series, Kyrie Irving is going to have to be Kyrie Irving and let them know, hey, you guys did me dirty years ago. We met up in the playoffs. I stepped on the logo and I was mad. I flipped you guys off a couple times. and now Kyrie has to really push the pedal to the metal and have a great game. I do remember 2 years ago, his last year with Boston, he got swept. And that was such a bad series for Kyrie. They were yelling stuff at him in the tunnel. This is his time to get his revenge, Justin. This is the moment for Kyrie Irving.
I'm all aboard that what you're saying there. I feel like Kyrie Irving. Let me see if this kind of analogy works. Kyrie Irving is like main event Jey Uso right now. Jey Uso was part of a bad squad. Everybody hates him. Not that Boston's like a really hated team, but now he's coming back. But he's a good guy now. But he's kind of got to right his wrongs. And in this series, he's got a really hard task going against Drew Holiday. Um, and hey, Drew Holiday's got some championship pedigree, but as well as Kyrie does as well. Obviously, in the big one against the Warriors a handful of years ago. So honestly, that could be my favorite matchup. Those two players, because this series is going to be. I think this will go to 7. I don't see one side just running away with it. There's some serious talent on both sides. Hopefully, no injuries, so we can get a full, strong battle from each team. But hey, now that we're at this point, Genoa, who's winning this series?
Justin, Boston has been knocking on the door for a while. And I know this doesn't matter, but Dallas did not make the playoffs last year. I know Kyrie just got there, but I do think that the experience of Boston, their starting five, and now that Kristaps is going to be coming back, I think Joe Mazzulla kind of has put the pieces together and knows what's stake to win. I'm going to go with Boston, Justin. I'm going to go with Boston in, I want to say 5 games, but I'm going to give Dallas the benefit of the doubt and say 6. I do think they win in Dallas. I think Game 6 will be in Dallas, and I just feel like Boston. Like I've said it already, they've been knocking on the door for a while. They drafted Jalen Green in 2016, and they get Tatum the year after, and then they go to the conference finals. Rookie Tatum dunks on LeBron. And in the Eastern Conference Finals, and ever since then, Justin, year in and year out, they had a couple. I think they had like 1 or 2 first round exits in the middle of that. But then after that, Justin, they had made the Eastern Conference Finals 3 years in a row. It's tough to deny, the talent of Drew Holiday and the Swiss Army knife that is Derek White and Horford, who might be his last chance ever. He's been around, Justin, for a while. He's on those great Atlanta Hawk teams. And I feel like this is the moment for Boston. They got the home court advantage. And hey, the history of Boston, Justin, they are just a winning city. We're talking Patriots. We're talking Celtics. We're talking Red Sox. Or the Bruins. They have all won championships in this era, in this decade, besides the Celtics. But they have been winning teams. So it's tough to deny the tradition of Boston. And for my finals MVP, I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. I want to say Tatum because he is the number 1 de facto. But I'm going to say Jaylen Brown because I feel like he's been more hungrier. He is more of the Mamba mentality is that Jason Tatum wishes he was. And he's a savage. He is more of a just get out of my way, get the ball, give me the ball, and get out of my way kind of guy. And so I just love Jaylen Brown in this series. I think he's going to shred the Mavericks. I don't think there's a shooting guard. I don't think Derek Jones or PJ Washington can guard him for 4 or 5 games. So I'm going to take Boston in 6, and Jaylen Brown is my Finals MVP.
That is I mean, hey, honestly, looking at the series, I feel like it's almost a coin flip. Both sides have so much to give. I really like your take, though. Jalen, there's some serious storylines coming out of this series. If Boston is the championship, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, they'll have been the most championship winning team in NBA history. If Jaylen Brown is the Finals MVP, we might have I feel like a turn of the look of this duo between Tatum and Brown. We might see Brown kind of maybe over him, or at least in a more equal sense. And it feel like at least when most teams win NBA Finals, but especially Boston, so much risk. They dive into so much risk. Paying Jalen, trading for Kristaps, getting rid of Marcus Smart, who was there for years. Al Horford might retire after this game. And obviously, I mean, bringing in Drew Holiday, there's just so much that for Boston that will pay off. And it would be pretty great to see, even though we've seen a lot of Boston winning seasons in the NBA, of course, and then, of course, the NFL. But hey, I'm jumping with the Dallas Mavericks. I'm on that train. They They punched Minnesota in the mouth. My finals favorites, who I was getting high on for a while. When I had said that back in, I think it was early February, and they were riding high, I was like, man, could I be right? They're close, but not close enough, and they're knocked out by this team that I think will win the championship. And I'm going in 7 games. I think this series is going to become one of the best we've seen in a long time. Unlike the other Dallas team, the Rangers, who just smoked the Diamondbacks in the World Series, this Dallas series will be a fun watch. And I feel like it's pretty split between who people who think each side's going to win and fans of both sides. I don't think there's one side particularly favored. But hey, give Luka a championship. This guy has been, a star. They made the conference finals before. Now they finally make an NBA finals. And he's what he will solidify himself as I think the 2020 face of the league with Nikola Jokic after this series if they win it, and I think they will win it. But I look at it and I go, Kyrie's coming back as the good guy. He's got to right his wrongs. Give him a victory too. He wins his second NBA championship. He does it He does it right, and it's just phenomenal to see. Finals MVP has to be Luka Doncic. He's been the guy all season. He misses out on his MVP, which I think he should have won
Yeah.
with those stats and how good the team was doing. And I think, hey, coming out of this, they look at it, they made 2 deadline trades, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, a great draft pick in Derek Lively. It kind of pays off on that trade for Kyrie, which some didn't like because of his attitude, but now it's kind of been a new Kyrie Irving. And then Luka, who, I mean, with Mark Cuban, I feel like it'd just be such a great win for them. Dallas gets their second championship in 2 different sports. And hey, Dallas doesn't lose in NBA championships. I believe, with Dirk, they make it, they win it. And I think that happens here. Dallas in 7, and we're crowning a new NBA champ, and it's just glorious to see. But what are your thoughts if Dallas pulls it off? What would be the landscape of the NBA?
So first of all, I want to say, Justin, my heart wants the Dallas Mavericks to win. My basketball knowledge tells me Boston will win. Okay. However, to answer your question, if Luka were to pull this off, Justin, he will automatically be the face of the league alongside with Nikola Jokic. But here's the thing, Justin. Luka, the way he plays basketball is very fancy, very flashy. That's why they call him Luka Magic. And Jokic, I'm not going to say his game is boring. His game is very fun to watch as well. But Jokic is more of a just all-around team guy. He's also a center and doesn't, ever, go one-on-one ISO or, have any ball handling moves. So Luka would definitely be the face of the league, Justin, as the Euros are taking over alongside with Giannis, who you can't, forget about. Giannis
For
will
sure.
be back around. That team had a weird season, but he will be back as one of those players too. But you have to definitely say Luka could be the face of the league because he can do it all, Justin. He can shoot, he can pass, he gets rebounds. I mean, he gets triple doubles almost every other game. I mean, the stats that he puts up during the regular season, I think like last year he scored like 60 or something, like 45 in like one half or something ridiculous. He would definitely be the face of the league. Everybody would love. I mean, everybody's gonna really latch on to Luka, and I would love to see that for the game too, because we all love Luka. He is so sensational to watch. So definitely, if they were to win this series, Luka will be kind of labeled as the new LeBron of the league, as far as where Jokic is more like the best center of the league. Kind of like back in the '90s, where it's like Michael Jordan is the best player of the league, but we still have Shaq and Hakeem Olajuwon that are the best big men in the league. Kind of like something along the lines of that. Maybe like in our kind of era, Justin, where it was LeBron, the best player, but you still have like Tim Duncan, who's the best big man in the league. So something along the lines of that. If Dallas were to win, but hey, the face of the league will be a lot better if Dallas wins.
I agree, and I feel that. I feel like maybe a lot of uh, analysts like ourselves, we want Dallas just as like fandom and excitement, but Boston offers a lot to consider there. But I will say with Luka, I was looking at another stat for him. He's been averaging 28.8, 9.6 boards, and 8.8 assists. The only other 2 players to have done that in an NBA playoffs, LeBron and Nikola Jokic. So he's in really good company right now. And then if you also look at it with their offense, hey, their offensive efficiency has gone up in each series throughout this NBA playoffs, and they have the second highest defensive rebounding percentage. So it's looking more and more like an overall growth for the Dallas Mavericks. And Luka, gets a title, and we love it, and pop the champagne because the NBA Finals. We as fans, we can just be happy because
Yeah.
this series is phenomenal. I think it's the best two teams we could have asked for to be here, and we got two faces. And then we also got, Jaylen Brown, Kyrie. Those are two other faces that are a little under them. And then we got just a plethora of other stars on this team. And obviously, you can argue Boston. Obviously, their first five are the best in the league, better than any other. But Dallas has some depth on them, which you can argue that. I mean, that's a long storied argument of what's better, kind of being super top heavy, but having a strong. I mean, the strong five is a strong five, and then Dallas, who has a strong like three, and then has a bunch of good role players. But that's the story of this finals. And I got Dallas in 7. Mr. Genoa here's got Boston in 6. We will see how it plays out, and we will discuss afterward because then, after that we got the draft, NBA free agency. So stay tuned. NBA talk. We got our finals preview is in there. Please check it out. Our NFL talk is also always a flowing. So stay tuned there. And Dwayne Nation, thank you guys for listening. Can't wait to hear it, and stay tuned to more Dwayne Sports. Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation, Justin, just a couple months ago, we said goodbye to the NFL season. Now, Justin, we're going to be saying goodbye to the NBA season. Crazy how time flies. But, Justin, this is going to be a great final series. I feel like I'm a boxing referee where I have both fighters right here, and I'm like, I want a good, clean fight and a good this and that. And have a good one. You know what I mean? I'm like that because I'm an NBA fan, and I love the finals year in and year out. So, Justin, I'm so excited to do this episode with you, man. And I'm so excited to do the recap here in a week or so and discuss what went wrong and what went right. And Dewey Nation, we love you guys for keeping up. We see the views going up, and we love you guys. Keep showing love, and we'll keep showing content. We love you guys.
All right,
As
peace
always,
out.
peace.
Woo!